They say walls can't hold memories, but what if they could? What if every whisper, every scream, every heartbeat of terror seeped into the wood, waiting, watching, and the sound of children's laughter drifts like music on a summer breeze. But as you approach 112 Ocean Avenue, something feels off. The scent of fresh-cut grass fades, replaced by something stale, damp, and metallic, like old pennies mixed with rotting wood. The trees near the house stand unnaturally still, as if even the wind doesn't want to get too close. In November 1974, Ronald DeFeo Jr. murdered his parents, his 2 brothers, and his 2 sisters in this very house. They moved in just before Christmas, bringing with them their 3 children, a dog named Harry, and the hope of starting a new chapter. George would later say that every corner of the house felt occupied, as if someone else was always just out of sight. George woke one morning to find frost on the inside of the window, even though the heaters were roaring. He swore he heard his name, spoken softly, like a breath on his ear. George. In the middle of winter, one room, the sewing room, became infested with black flies. No matter how many they killed, they returned, clinging to the windows and buzzing angrily. He'd rise, unable to stop himself, and walk through the halls in silence, feeling something follow him in the dark. Kathy began to feel hands brush against her skin when no one was there, and the children woke screaming about red eyes staring at them from the corners of their rooms. He arrived, quiet but confident, carrying holy water. As he began to pray, he stopped abruptly. His voice faltered. I felt something, he later recalled. Something that didn't want me there. He turned pale, his hands shaking, and as he left, he whispered to the Lutz family, "Do not stay here. This house does not want you." Or does that house still breathe? Still listen? Still wait for someone new to walk through its door? George would later say, it was like they were trying to keep something from leaving. Or maybe keep something in. Some houses never forget. Heavy. Slow. He rushed to the children's room, expecting to find an intruder. But all 3 kids were sound asleep. Yet the dragon continued above them, in the attic, where no one had been. It felt, George later said, like the house was alive, like it was breathing around us. At night, when the children slept, there would be noises, soft footsteps pacing the hallway, doors closing on their own. Once, George found him barking at the basement door, his teeth bared, as if something stood on the other side. But neighbors still talk of strange things. Lights flickering when no one's home, shadows in the windows. A feeling of unease that settles over you if you linger too long on the sidewalk. George grew irritable, withdrawn, as if the house was feeding on his energy. He felt it in the walls, in the floors, in the very air. Others insist that the darkness they felt was really an echo of something that had been there long before the murders. Something that never left. We're not alone, he told Kathy one evening, his voice hollow. She nodded, her eyes wide, as if she already knew. But when George opened it, nothing, just darkness, still and suffocating. Something that made them grab their children and flee in the dead of night, leaving their belongings behind. They never returned. Old houses have noises, they told themselves. But this one seemed to respond. When they whispered, the air seemed to whisper back. But the house had other plans. 6 lives, ended one by one while they slept. He claimed he heard voices, dark, insistent whispers telling him to do the unthinkable. The police said he was deranged. Others wondered if the house itself had spoken to him. She would wake in a cold sweat, screaming, her mind filled with images she couldn't explain. The DeFeo family's final moments, the sound of footsteps on stairs, a sudden blast of gunfire in the darkness. I feel like this house is trying to show me something, she whispered to George one night. Something terrible, whether it was madness or something more. The blood of that family soaked into the foundation, staining the very bones of the place. It's hard to describe at first, an unease in your stomach, the way your breath seems heavier. The floorboards don't squeak under your shoes, but you feel the faint vibration of something beneath the silence, as though the house is alive, its walls pulsing with a heartbeat that isn't yours. Every sound is magnified: the faint buzz of an unseen light, the distant tick of a clock, the creak of old wood somewhere deep in the structure, and then, nothing. A silence so heavy it presses on your chest, as if the house itself is holding its breath, listening for you to speak first. The house doesn't look abandoned or decrepit. In fact, it's almost a perfect. White siding, dark shutters, and those windows, those eerie, half-moon windows that look like eyes watching, unblinking, waiting for someone new to listen. In Amityville, New York, there is a house that carries such memories like scars. Some call it a hoax, others swear they felt the darkness breathe. Picture this: a quiet suburban street, the kind of street where neighbors wave as they mow their lawns, where every mailbox gleams. You step closer. The air feels different here. Inside, the house is quiet to quiet. This is where it began, at least, the story we all know. A year later, the Lutz family moved in. George and Kathy Lutz thought they'd found their dream home, a spacious house at an unbelievable price. On their first night, they noticed it, a subtle feeling at first, like being watched. Kathy would catch fleeting shapes in the corners of her vision, as if the shadows shifted when she looked too long. The temperature inside the house would drop without reason. Kathy's dreams began to change. Then came the flies. The dog, Harry, began growling at empty corners, his fur bristling as he refused to enter certain rooms. The house grew colder, angrier. George found himself waking at 3:15 a.m. every night, the exact time when the DeFeo murders took place. One night, George heard something dragging across the floor upstairs. A priest was called to bless the home. The days blurred into nights. The final night was the worst. They don't talk much about what happened, only that something drove them out. To this day, the debate rages on. Some say the Lutz family made it all up, a story crafted for fame and fortune. If you stand outside 112 Ocean Avenue today, it looks just like any other house, quiet, harmless. So here's the question: was the Amityville horror just a myth? Some say if you're quiet enough, you can hear it, the faint hum of something alive within the walls. Maybe it's just your imagination? Or maybe, do you believe? Or will you wait until the house whispers to you?